day's a day, a bad luck's always a coming my way.
When it comes to music, some of the greatest songs ever written have to deal with pain that the human heart feels, whether it's from love or something tragic happening, like a loved one dying. Now, with that being said, one of the saddest songs to me that has been written in today's day and age is Eric Clapton's Tears in Heaven, which he wrote about the death of his son. Now, this story brings us to Eric Clapton's hometown, where his son is buried, in Ripley, England.
Eric Clapton's Tears in Heaven captures the grief and heartbreak the songwriter suffered after the loss of his son Connor. Connor was just 4.5 years old when he tragically fell 53 stories from an open window where he was living with his mother in New York City. Connor growing to a toddler, emulating his famous father. He loved listening to Clapton's music and had budding dreams of being like the famed Slowhand.
Now, to properly tell the story of the death of Conor Clapton, we have to go back to March 20th, 1991, New York City. You see, Eric Clapton and his then girlfriend, they weren't living together, and their son, Connor, was staying with his mother. And for whatever reason, the cleaner came in, the housekeeper came in, and she was cleaning the windows, and she opened the windows. And she couldn't get it shut, and she turned her back, and in a blink of an eye, Connor ran across the room over to the windowsill, and instead of stopping, went out the window. And he fell 53 stories to his death. Now, I always thought that there were rules in place for things like this to prevent that from happening, like that there were guards or some sort of locking mechanism on the windows. And upon doing research, it seems that back then, maybe it's still like that today, that it is the city's law, but it is ultimately up to the landlord to install those safety precautions. And for whatever reasons, on this particular apartment, they weren't there. And it seems a little weird. I mean, accidents happen in the blink of an eye, so you never really know. But sadly, March 20th, 1991, it was it was sad.
I'm Eric Clapton. I need to talk to parents about how many kids are injured and even killed by falls. Each year in this country, nearly 100,000 kids are hospitalized because of falls. Here's how parents can help keep their kids safe. There are 2 simple things you can do. Use guards on windows and safety gates on stairs. It's easy and it could prevent a terrible tragedy. Believe me, I know.
Now, believe it or not, the death of Conor Clapton actually gets even more sadder. You see, the day before this happened, Eric Clapton was actually in town for work. And the day before, he took Connor to the circus, and they had this really, really nice day. And then the next day, he gets the phone call that his son fell to his death, and he couldn't believe it.
There couldn't have been a bigger nightmare. Before anyone could stop him, 4-year-old Conor Clapton had plunged to his death from the 53rd floor of the Galleria building. He'd made it past his mother and 3 other adults who were in the apartment to a window that had just been cleaned and left open. There was nothing to break his fall except the roof of an adjoining building.
Now, 4.5 years old, something like that, and Connor was just learning to write. And I think it came sometime after that, his mother came out and said that Connor actually wrote a note to his daddy saying, "I love you," and put it in the mail, and it didn't actually get there until after, Connor passed and the funeral.
I started opening all my letters and condolence. Thousands and thousands of them. And I opened one, and it was from Connor. It had been posted 2 weeks before from Milan. And I realised that if I can go through this and stay sober, then anyone can.
Now when it comes to Connor's funeral, try to picture this. In this small English town, in this small English cemetery, one of rock and roll's greatest guitar players, rock stars, Eric Clapton, his son, is laid to rest here. It's very tragic and headlines across the world. And there was a photographer that captured the funeral. And one of the photos was taken from right about here, and in it you can see the pallbearers carrying the coffin and Eric Clapton and his girlfriend walking right behind him. There's another photo that was taken from right about here of Eric Clapton and his girlfriend walking towards the camera. You can see the mourners walking not too far behind them, and I'm guessing this is after they buried Connor. And the last photo I'm going to show you is taken from right about here. You can see the church on the left, and then if you look at the end of the pathway, you see those black vertical bars. There's two of them. And well, in the photo, they're like a turquoise, like a light blue. And the pallbearers are carrying the coffin down this pathway right here. So I figure we're going to try to do this all in one long shot. I'm going to walk back the same path that they did. Jessica's back here playing with, there's snails in the garden. Now, I remember the first time I heard Tears in Heaven, and my dad played it for me. My dad is a big Eric Clapton fan. And even further back, before Eric Clapton went on his like solo project, he was a big fan of, I think it was with the Yardbirds, right? Or Cream, that's what it was, Cream. And when it came to Tears in Heaven, whenever Eric Clapton wrote this song, he actually was like his form of therapy, and he wasn't going to release it on anything. And at the time, there's a movie that came out in 1991 called Rush. And he was convinced, I think it was, to actually put that song on that album, and it became an instant hit. Not only because it's a great song, but because of the story. Now, right here, I'm going to get close to it in just a moment. But back here in the corner is Conor Clapton's final resting place. So let's see here. Conor Clapton, 1986 to 1991. Beloved son, sweet child of infinite beauty, you will live in our hearts forever. Well, it looks like somebody's been out here recently too, because that's a real rose. And all the different toys here, the toy cars. Man, this is just sad. It just breaks my heart. Now, of course, for copyright reasons, I cannot play the song. But I'm guessing if you are watching this, then you probably already know how heartbreaking this song is, especially hearing his dad, Eric Clapton, singing it. But I mean, the words, I can't get them out of my head right now. Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven? Would it be the same if I saw you in heaven? Man, it's just, I got chills, just my entire body. I can't even begin to imagine what it's like to lose a child, especially at that age, and how Connor died. Now, I've always been a fan of Eric Clapton's music, and this is one of those stories, one of those lives, one of those graves that I've heard about. And whenever we were coming back to England and we were up this way, I remembered, I was like, wait a second, Conor Clapton is buried somewhere near here. So we had to stop, we had to come, and we had to pay our respects and just kind of give a little heartbeat, if you will. to Connor Clapton.
Wherever I come, bad luck is coming my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always coming my way.